All right. Well, we are all in need of some good news. Now, I was hoping to do a video on the fact that, and I have read this, that Trump supporters, well, actually, people who voted for Trump, not necessarily Trump supporters, are now finding out very quickly in real time that they done fucked up. They find out what tariffs actually mean, which, if they actually paid attention, they would have known before the election. Hell, if they paid attention in high school civics, they would have found out what tariffs are. So there's that. So now they're realizing that prices are not going to go down. They're just going to continue going up instead. Now, the real curious one are the people who are suddenly realizing that their undocumented family members are in danger. That was a highlight of Trump's campaign. Now, I realize that the tariff thing is more niche and not many people were, screaming from the rooftops that that wasn't a thing. You'd have to actually seek that information out. But that was Trump's thing, was mass deportations. Who the fuck did you think that was for? So yeah, that one baffles me even more than the tariffs one. Should people have known what tariffs actually are? Because again, you learn that in high school, social studies or civics. So yeah, you should have damn well known. But the deportations, that's how much, I mean, I understand that these people live underground and they pay attention to zero media because a lot of those people were probably the same ones who asked on Google if Joe Biden actually dropped out. Okay, but how hermetically sealed is this underground? Because again, that was Trump's big thing. What the hell were you voting on? Because it sounds like you weren't voting on pretty much anything except white man, biracial woman. I honestly have no idea what other thing you were, because it wasn't the economy. Because if it was, you probably want to know what the economic plan was. So yeah. Anyway, that's not what this video is about. Like I said, I was hoping to find an article about the buyer's remorse, but couldn't find one. So let's instead pivot to some good news. Judge rules in favor of 2 trans women who claimed military health plan was discriminatory. And all I can say is enjoy your win while it lasts, because Trump has mentioned that he wants to get the woke out of the military. Because the military and everything else should be just reserved for cis, straight, white men. I mean, we all know that that's what he's thinking. Anyway, let's get to the article. A U.S. district judge in Maine ruled that the United States military discriminated against 2 transgender women by refusing them coverage of gender-affirming surgeries under the military health plan TRICARE. Okay. In her 28-page ruling, Barack Obama appointee U.S. District Judge Nancy Torreson said that the women, identified as Jane Doe and Susan Roe, had their rights violated under the Equal Protection Clause of the U.S. Constitution when the military tried to argue for statutory exclusion of the 2 from receiving essential health care. Because the defendants offer no justification for denying coverage of gender transition surgeries, they fall far short of their burden under intermediate scrutiny to show the statutory exclusion is substantially related to achieving an important governmental objective. The plaintiffs are therefore entitled to summary judgment. While having received surgery prior, both individuals say they were discriminated against for not being able to access additional surgeries that were medically necessary. They argue they were discriminated against on the basis of sex and their transgender status. They were nonetheless facially discriminatory because they targeted treatments for gender dysphoria, Torreson said, which is inextricably from transgender status. She added that the military and Department of Defense failed to establish a government objective for why they were denying these surgeries. Oh, isn't that nice? I mean, gender dysphoria is a thing. I mean, I just do not know. Do I understand it? No. Why should I? I don't have gender dysphoria. There's a lot of things I do not understand, but I accept that they exist. So, I don't understand how people feel it when they have an amputated limb and they have phantom pain. I don't understand that because I don't have a phantom limb. I have all my limbs. That doesn't mean I don't acknowledge that it exists. I'm aware it exists. So, same thing here. Okay, I don't understand gender dysphoria, but trans people have it. Okay, alleviate it. Anyway. Nevertheless, Torreson claimed that the exclusion wasn't necessarily unconstitutional, as it doesn't encompass gender-affirming surgeries that are deemed by the military to be medically necessary. What? It sounds like a contradiction. So, basically, what the military is claiming, if I understand this correctly, is that these were not medically necessary surgeries. Because, again, they don't understand what gender dysphoria is. Yes, it is medically necessary. Just because it's not something that you can see with your eyes doesn't mean it isn't medically necessary. The plaintiff's facial challenge fails because, as they acknowledge, there is an interpretation of the statutory exclusion that does not violate their equal protection rights, she said. She said the exclusion does not apply to surgeries needed to treat the debilitating symptom of gender dysphoria. Okay, so basically what she's saying is that, yes, you're saying that this is only for medically necessary surgeries, but this is in fact medically necessary. It does, however, ban surgeries meant solely to improve physical appearance, in other words, just plastic surgery, which means anything that does not significantly restore functions. Because how many women get facelifts, liposuction, tummy tucks, whatever, boob jobs, just simply because it makes them look better or feel better. But it's not a matter of looking down at your chest, not seeing boobs, and in your mind, because you feel like a woman, you need to have something there. And what I'm talking about is the male chest. And so yeah, that is gender dysphoria. I would add that I used to follow this YouTuber, and she said that she pretty much had nothing here. So she wanted breasts. She didn't like the fact that she was flat-chested. Now, depending on how it affects her, I would argue that could be considered a form of dysphoria, only it's not a gender dysphoria, just a body dysmorphia or dysphoria, I'm not sure, because, it really bothered her. So I don't know if at that point, if that wouldn't be medically necessary. It depends on where her mental state is. But anyway, moving on. The DoD tried to argue that the plaintiffs would be excluded from receiving any surgery related to a psychological condition, since a different rule prevents the coverage of surgery for exclusively psychological reasons. Thorsen responded that her findings prevent the government from enforcing the psychological provision. Now, I don't know the law well enough to say who's in the right here. But, this is the judge, so one would hope, especially since she's an Obama appointee, that she would actually give a shit about the actual law. So, yeah. The legislative and regulatory history shows the statutory exclusion and the psychological reasons regulations are fundamentally related, Thorsen said. They were both implemented to achieve the goal of eliminating the costly practice of performing non-medical services such as cosmetic surgery in military medical facilities. Okay, so based on that, the example I used of that YouTuber being flat-chested wouldn't be covered by this ruling because it's just someone who wants cosmetic surgery. Whereas, obviously it's cosmetic, but so that no cosmetic surgery, no matter how much it seriously bugs a person that they're flat-chested, it could be considered under this, that this is strictly for gender dysphoria, which makes sense. It sucks for people who are like, oh, I wish I had this, or I wish I had, bigger this, smaller this, whatever. So, but gender dysphoria is completely different, because that is, let's say you're born male and you look down and you don't see boobs. And you're like, what the hell? Why don't I have boobs? And it's just simply because your gender dysphoria is telling you that's what you should have. So, yeah. Then it becomes medically necessary, because if you truly think that you were born in the wrong body, you would want to do what you can to change it. As opposed to the example I used of the YouTuber, where she doesn't feel like she was born in the wrong body. She just thinks it sucks that she was flat-chested. So that answers that question. So that is my good news article for today. I wish I had more good news articles. I did think I found another one about trans people finding community and telling trans people that you're not alone. But it was more of a opinion piece, and it just didn't strike me as, okay, it's great that you're not alone, that there are other people who you can turn to lift you up, but it just didn't strike me as video worthy, because absolutely, if you are trans, find a community of other trans people, specifically trans, simply because that's the big pushback right now. But even if it's other LGBTQ people, not LGBT Alliance, those people suck, but a true LGBTQ plus community, because there are other people who are suffering and can help you. But trans, because of the gender dysphoria, other trans people are more equipped to give you that positive affirmation that everything's going to be okay, because they're going through the same thing. I mean, exactly the same thing. Even if your gender dysphoria is different, you're still going through it, and you're still having to deal with people coming after you simply for existing. So anyway, that is all I have for this video, and I will see you guys in the next one.